The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone. This presentation covers new regulations regarding ODDS and Medicaid-funded home and community-based services, and the impact of these new regulations on employment and day services available through Oregon's Office of Developmental Disability Services. So a number of things are driving changes to the way employment services are delivered. There's an Oregon's Employment First policy formally adopted by the legislature in 2008. Under this Employment First policy, our service delivery system presumes that with the right support and job match, all working-aged adult and youth, including those who have or experience an intellectual or developmental disability, can succeed in competitive integrated employment in the general workforce. Also, work in integrated jobs is the first and priority option in planning employment services for working-aged adult and youth. Then there's also Oregon's Executive Order 1501 and Oregon's Integrated Employment Plan. And these outline a number of initiatives to implement Oregon's Employment First policy, including targets for increasing supported employment services. There's also the Lane v. Brown Settlement Agreement and Oregon's efforts to further compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act in Olmstead. And there's also the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that governs vocational rehabilitation services. And then 2011 guidance issued by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services that was later incorporated into the Waiver Technical Assistance Guide. And it states the optimal and expected outcome of all HCBS employment services is individual integrated employment in the general workforce where the person earns competitive wages and benefits. Then there's also new setting requirements for ODDS and Medicaid-funded home and community-based services, which will be discussed in more detail as part of this presentation. But most importantly, businesses are increasingly understanding the benefits of an inclusive workforce, and also change is being driven by the increasing number of people who are getting competitive integrated jobs in the general workforce, and who need some services and support to maintain or advance in the job. And then the resulting need for our service system to meet that growing demand. So this training focuses on the new setting requirements for ODDS and Medicaid-funded home and community-based services, or HCBS. This includes ODDS and Medicaid-funded employment and day services. These services are jointly administered and funded through the federal and state Medicaid program. Currently, the federal government matches Oregon funds by contributing approximately 65% of the cost for these services. ODDS funding streams through the HCBS program include Oregon's Community First Choice, or 1915 K Plan, commonly just referred to as the K Plan. And this funds ODDS non-residential day services, commonly referred to as Community Living Supports, or DSA. The K Plan also funds other services that are ancillary to employment and non-residential day services, including transportation or attendant care in an employment or work setting. The HCBS program also includes 1915C waivers, which fund ODDS employment services. There are a few different types of employment services available through the 1915C waivers administered by ODDS. It's important to keep in mind that the optimal and expected outcome of all ODDS employment services is competitive integrated employment in the general workforce. ODDS employment services funded through the HCBS waiver include job coaching support to maintain or advance in competitive integrated employment, job development support to obtain competitive integrated employment, and this service is available through ODDS when VR services are not available, and it must be approved by ODDS. Other employment services include ODDS Discovery to gather information regarding a person's skills and interests before VR job development. Small Group includes support to obtain skills and experience that can be used in competitive integrated employment. This service can be provided to 2 to 8 people, but must be provided in a manner that integrates everyone into the general community business and workforce there. Employment Path services are time-limited services that include support to explore competitive integrated employment or develop skills that can be used in the general workforce. But again, the optimal and expected outcome of all ODDS employment services is competitive integrated employment in the general workforce. Community Living Supports, or DSA, includes attendant care and skills training to meet IADL goals related to integration and participating in the community. These services may occur in small groups or one-to-one. These services may also occur in the community or at a provider site. Previously, in the Employment Services Rules, information regarding community living supports can now be found under Oregon Administrative Rules 411450. As referenced above, there are new federal and state regulations regarding home and community-based services. They include new setting requirements for ODDS and Medicaid-funded employment and non-residential day services. For services to be eligible for the HCBS program and therefore eligible for federal match, they must be delivered in settings that meet the requirements described here. They must be integrated in and support access to the greater community. They must ensure individuals receiving Medicaid HCBS have the same access to the greater community as individuals not receiving Medicaid HCBS. And they also must provide opportunities to seek employment and work in competitive integrated settings. So home and community-based services that cannot be provided in settings that have the qualities of an institution. Settings that isolate individuals receiving HCBS from the broader community are presumed to have the qualities of an institution. Employment path services at a provider site must be provided in an integrated setting where individuals using services gain experience working with the general public, meaning customers and coworkers. It must be to the same or a similar degree as individuals who do not have a disability and do not use HCBS services. The workforce within the setting must be integrated. CMS guidance also states that reverse integration is insufficient. Those using services in a provider setting must have an individualized plan that shows how time-limited employment path services are being used to obtain competitive integrated employment in the general workforce. This includes individualized outcomes and individualized provider implementation strategies. Employment path that occurs at a provider site or facility must be used in combination with a service component that is in a non-disability specific setting in the general community and away from the provider site. Employment path facility might be used at a provider site for something that is not sheltered work. This usually includes employment-related skills building that complements services in a general community setting. Employment path facility used for employment-related skills building must meet the requirements described here. There must be a community component to any employment courses. For example, 2 hours of classroom instruction might be followed by 2 hours of working on the skill in the community. Or 1 week instruction at a provider site might be followed by 2 weeks of a 2-week internship, job shadow, or informational interview at a general community business. The skills course has to be relevant and used to get a job in the community. The course can't be available somewhere else in the community. And then all individuals in the setting must have a career development plan and individualized provider implementation strategies that support obtaining competitive integrated employment in the general workforce. The new setting requirements for home and community-based services also impact non-residential day services, in other words, community living supports, or DSA. These services may be offered at a provider site or facility. However, the setting must, at minimum, facilitate ongoing opportunities and encouragement for individuals to go out into the broader community, and must facilitate opportunities for individualized planning and participation in the broader community. So a couple of important notes. States can set higher standards. It's important to keep in mind that states must also assure programs comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. A full transformation to job coaching, job development, and discovery in general workforce settings and away from the provider site is the best way to guarantee full compliance now and in the future. Some settings are considered to be marginally compliant. CMS and ODDS cannot guarantee that these settings will always be considered compliant. These settings include employment path services at a provider site, and it's important to keep in mind there will be continued review and evaluation to ensure that these settings are in fact used and support people to get a job in the general workforce. So HCBS also requires that if a person chooses to use employment or day services at a provider site, that person must have an option to use employment and day services in a non-disability specific setting. The non-disability specific setting option presented must be documented in the person-centered plan, or in other words, it's the ODDS ISP. With regards to employment services, if the person selects employment path services at a provider site or facility, there must be a community component. Some examples of a community component to the plan include a referral to vocational rehabilitation or job development, discovery services, or employment path in the community and away from the provider site that might include support to explore employment at a workforce career center, an internship at a general community business, a job shadow, informational interview, or some other time-limited work experience at a general community business. With regards to non-residential day services, any authorization for DSA facility should also include an authorization for DSA community. So just to provide an overview of initial compliance for Oregon's employment and non-residential day service settings, full compliance is already required for job coaching, job development, discovery, small group, and DSA community. DSA facility, employment path community occurring at a provider site, and employment path facility that is not sheltered work are considered to be in substantial compliance. And some changes might be necessary to assure full compliance or continued compliance as part of a provider's HCBS improvement plan. But employment path facility and sheltered work settings are not compliant and must be transformed consistent with the provider's HCBS transformation plan. Providers that are transforming sheltered work settings may request additional time as outlined in the related workers guide found on the employment policy website via the link found here. A request for additional time had to be submitted by June 1st, 2008. All other non-sheltered work HCBS settings must be compliant by September 1st, 2018. So this slide provides some additional resources, including a link to the ODDS employment policy website, a link to DHS HCBS transition plan website, the workers guide for sheltered workshop settings requesting additional time, and the ODDS DHS Employment First website, which includes a number of employment success stories. And finally, here is our contact information in case you have questions. You can contact me, Allison Enriquez, or you can contact the employment specialist based in your region. You can find their contact information here. I want to thank everyone for listening to this presentation. If you have questions or comments, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you.